I'm going to be batch cooking some meatballs today, so why don't you join me and we can cook together. The video is going to be long on purpose so that you feel like somebody is there with you cooking. Sometimes it's fun to have somebody to cook with. I put up another video that's much shorter if you just need a run through of how to make the meatballs. And I'll just link to it in the description. All right, it's time to get started. So I'm just gonna weigh out my meat. So I'll just start adding meat till it's 1 pound. Oh, and right now it's in grams, so I have to change that. Oh yeah, pounds is good. And give back a little bit. Doesn't have to be exact, but for the purposes of my video, I'm trying to make it exact. That's about 1 pound. And we'll add our ground pork next. There. Okay, that'll be good. About 2 pounds. I'm gonna keep the stem end. The reason for that is so that I have something to hold on to when I'm grating the onion later. But first I'm going to cut off the root end. And I'm going to put this into a bowl of water. And I'm going to put the bowl into the fridge. And I'm going to take it out in about 20 minutes and then I'll cut it because I don't want to cry. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and mince some garlic. You don't have to use fresh garlic in the meatball recipe. I have used garlic powder. I've also used onion powder in place of the grated onion, but I'm going to go ahead and use fresh garlic. And I do need to stand up, get the peels off. One of my least favorite kitchen tasks is taking the peel off the garlic clove. And so I thought I have a solution for that, and I like to batch mince a bunch of garlic all at once, so I only have to do it like once every week or two, you know. But you know, life happens and sometimes you just don't get around to chopping garlic in big batches like you want to. So when I have to do just 1 or 2 garlic cloves for a recipe, oh, it kills me. It's like, really? I have to spend, I mean, it's really not that long. It's maybe like a minute or less. It's less, it's really less than a minute to get the peel off. Just feels like too long. And when I'm trying to hurry and make dinner, it just feels even longer. So you might be wondering why I don't just buy garlic in a jar, you know, like the jars that have already peeled and already minced garlic. Honestly, I've tried it before and it's just not the same. I like fresh garlic a lot. Fresh garlic has a taste, it has a taste that just store-bought jarred garlic that's already been minced doesn't have. It's not fresh. I like that fresh taste. That is not quite minced. There are several very large chunks in here. It's way too big, especially for a meatball. So I'm just gonna keep going. This is a much better mince. There's still some bigger chunks in there, but for the most part, this is what we're looking for. Okay, I got the onion back out. I'm ready to grate it now. I'm gonna peel off the top layer. Usually the top layer is just too crispy. It doesn't, it's kind of like papery almost. This one's pretty thick, but it definitely gets papery towards the top, and it's just not tasty in the final product, especially on meatballs. I don't need too much for the meatballs, but I'm gonna grate at least enough for those for the 3 batches that I'm doing. See, the onion starts to get like shaggy on the edges. Ooh. Okay. If I had left this in the fridge longer, I know that I wouldn't be crying right now. It's definitely not as bad as when I don't do anything. We're getting there. Whew. It's not too bad. I think I have enough, but I'm gonna do all of it. And I'm using the large holes on my box grater. I've tried with the small holes. It was very hard. Yeah, don't try that. With the large holes, it actually does quite a good job. But here I am to almost the end, and I think I'm gonna just stop and put the rest in the freezer and put it in some chicken stock that I'm gonna make. Woo! Because I do have plenty in here. It wasn't that bad. I have this bag that I put into my freezer that I just keep onion skins and ends and peels from the onion in, and then anytime I make chicken stock, I just grab a handful or 2 and put it in my stock. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that papery thin peel in there and the end that I didn't finish, and that will be just right for my chicken stock. So when I started filming earlier, I didn't really start that late in the day. Well, I guess it was like 2, and my family was gone. They went somewhere so I could have some peace and quiet to film, and I was only about 5 minutes into filming when I saw that the battery on my camera was dying. So I was like, great, just great. So I had to charge my battery. The battery finally charged. I think it was 4:30, and now it's 5:20. And I have not finished. I haven't even got close to finishing. My family's on their way home. So I'm gonna put the onion and the garlic in the fridge as well as the meat, which I already did put that in the fridge. And I'm going to return to this tomorrow. So I'm just putting the onion in a jar, and I already put the garlic in a jar. We're gonna go ahead and mix up our meatballs. Got the ground pork, ground beef in here, and onion, grated onion, minced garlic, an egg. These are the seasonings or the spices. So there is salt, pepper, parsley, basil, oregano, and crushed red pepper flakes. And then there's half a cup of quick oats. So normally when you make meatballs, you make them with Parmesan cheese and breadcrumbs. These meatballs are completely dairy-free and gluten-free, as long as you use gluten-free certified oats. I personally think they are the best meatballs ever. So let's start making them. Let's add our oats. And then we'll add the grated onion, and we need 2 tablespoons of that. I'm very glad I did this yesterday so I don't have to do it today. And then we're gonna need 4 to 6 cloves of garlic. So I'll just do like half a teaspoon for each clove. 1, 2, 3, 4, I like lots of garlic. 5 and 6. Actually, my whole family likes garlic, not just me. And then we need to add our seasonings and spices. I'm gonna mix it up first and then I'll add the egg. Okay, well, I do not like to get my rings dirty, so I always take them off when I cook. Okay, now we'll take the egg and put it in. Okay, now I'm going to have to start doing it with my hands to get everything really mixed up well. One reason why I started making meatballs is because we used to buy crackers and meat, lunch meat, and make our own Lunchables. And then when we wanted, or when I wanted to stop buying crackers and lunch meat, it got a little difficult to find things that we could pack for our homeschool co-op lunch every Wednesday. And when I started making meatballs, my kids loved it, and you really don't have to reheat the meatballs to eat them. You can eat them cold. And all I did was serve them with like raw vegetables and hummus, some fruit, and it was just fine. It was a perfect lunch for them. Okay, so I got that all mixed up. All right, let's make some meatballs. So first I gotta get some of this water on my hands. It's warm water, and I'm just gonna put it right here on the palms of my hands so that this meat does not really stick. And I'm gonna use just a tablespoon to help me measure out a good size for each meatball. And then I'm gonna roll that up, and that will be a very good size meatball. And we're just gonna put it right on the sheet pan. I don't need to put water on my hands every time, just like every 3 or 4 meatballs. You don't need to space them too far apart. They can actually be like, oh, an inch apart at least. If you don't like to touch raw meat, you could always use gloves, latex gloves. They sell those specifically for food preparation. Or you could ask a family member to do it for you. Or, I don't know. I used to hate touching raw meat when I was newly married and just starting to cook meat a lot. I didn't really want to touch raw chicken especially, but raw ground beef wasn't that fun either. So, I don't know, I just forced myself to, and after a while it didn't bother me anymore. Because you can always wash your hands after. And when my kids were little, I never let them touch raw meat. I always freaked out when they did. And I don't know if that's such a good thing to leave that impression on our kids, to make them think that raw meat is bad or something. So if I could go back in time, I guess I would allow them to touch it and then just make sure that they wash their hands well after they touched it. I think it's important that our children learn how to appreciate meat. I actually really like using my tablespoon here to form the balls, because then they're all very much even. When I just do it by hand, I just eyeball it, and then there's some that are really small and some that are really big, and most of them are in between. So I think from now on I'm going to use my tablespoon to form my meatballs. It helps that this tablespoon is very round. So if you had like a cookie scoop, you could totally use that too. Or you don't have to use anything, you could just eyeball it like I used to. Still works. It's not like the end of the world if there's some that are bigger than others or some that are smaller. Because I'm making so many today, I'm making 3 batches, I think I'm going to get out another baking sheet after I fill up this one and keep going. And that way 2 baking sheets are in the oven at the same time, and I can move much more quickly through this, because when I'm making 3 batches, that means I'm making enough for like at least probably a month, maybe just 3 weeks, but probably more like a month. So that's nice that I only have to make meatballs once every 3 to 4 weeks. I've actually, I think this is like the first time I've ever made 3 batches. I've made two before, but never 3. This meat is not sticking to my hands like at all, so that's good. If you don't have ground pork, or you don't want to buy it, because sometimes it's too expensive per pound, you really don't have to. I've made so many meatballs with just ground turkey or just ground beef or a mixture of those two. I only started using ground pork recently. I think it makes the meatballs taste so much better with the ground pork, like more moist. But use what you can, use what you have. So I've got 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24 on this tray. And I've still got some meat. Okay, starting on my second tray. So 24. I think I'm only gonna get about 16 more. Usually this makes 40. The smell of the garlic and onion is just overpowering, but it's really good. So if you don't like onion or garlic, I suggest you use garlic powder or onion powder in place of those two. But I just love garlic and onion. When I was younger, when I was a kid, I hated onion. I don't even know if I tried garlic ever, but I hated onions so bad. I basically just copied what my sisters liked, and they hated onion too. They were older than me. I was the younger sister. And when I got married, I knew my husband loved onion. He's from Argentina, and onion is like in everything. So I thought, okay, I might have to start forcing myself to like onion, or not like it, but at least use it and try to like it. Well, that was in 2008, and now it's 2025. I can't remember how many years we've been married. Yeah, almost 17 years ago is when I started cooking with onion and decided that I was going to do that. Well, within the first, I would say 2 years, my taste buds started changing. It wasn't like I liked onion at that time, but I could tolerate it, and I didn't notice it too much. I also made sure that I would chop the onion really tiny for my recipes, because that was one thing I hated the most, was the texture of the onion. And by the time my daughter was born, my oldest daughter, in 2012, we had been married for 4 years, and I really liked onion. I didn't enjoy raw onion very much, but I really liked cooked onion. So any recipe that called for onion, no problem. Onion could be in that, and I loved it. It was still the raw onion that got to me, because my husband loves tomato onion salad, and tomato onion salad was just like, ugh. So I would just usually cut myself some tomatoes when we had that salad and eat those. So I think it was like less than 2 years after that, so maybe 6 years into our marriage, I started liking tomato onion salad. And I was like, why? Why did I wait so long? This is delicious. And the crunch, the texture of the onion was a little bothersome, but not so bad. So basically, I learned how to like a food that I once absolutely hated. Onion was absolutely the last food I ever wanted to eat when I was a kid. So if you put your mind to something, I really believe you can accomplish it. It might not happen right away, but I think it could happen in a couple months' time or a few years. It happened to me with onion. I set my mind to it. I just wanted to make sure that what I was making my husband was what he wanted, but also that I could enjoy it. And so I made sure that I would enjoy it by exposing myself to onion over time. And now I don't remember why I even brought that up. Oh, yeah, because I was mentioning about if you don't like onion, you can use onion powder. So I'll use onion powder a lot in recipes, like if a recipe calls for it. But I don't think about using onion powder unless a recipe calls for it. Oh, see, we have just a little bit in here. So I am gonna just make one little tiny meatball. Or actually, I think I'll just add a little bit to each of these meatballs here. And roll them up again. That way we don't have one meatball that's overcooked. And I made 4, 8, 12, 16, 17 plus 24, 34, 42, 42 meatballs. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 41. 41, not 42. Holly, you're looking at me like, what's wrong with you, Mom? I did that on purpose to make you laugh. They're ready to go in the oven. I'm gonna put them in now. I don't really want to wait for the next batch. I'm just gonna cook these so I can show you the end result. Okay, they're out of the oven. I'm gonna put them in this big bowl. Since I have 3 batches, there's gonna be 120 something at the end. So I'll just put them in this big bowl, and then at the end I will keep some out in the fridge, and then I'll put the rest in the freezer. Let's do it. So this part is not tricky, but it's kind of annoying because I don't use aluminum foil anymore. And I know I shouldn't be baking directly on an aluminum baking sheet. I'm so sick and tired of buying parchment paper and aluminum foil. So it's a little bit hard to get them off at first, but eventually they do start to just come right off. That one just came right off. But some are just a little bit more stuck than others. If you use a stainless steel baking sheet or parchment paper or aluminum foil, they should come right off. And they smell incredible. I really want to eat them right now. Since I'm going to be using this baking sheet again, I'm going to scrape off all the leftover stuff. before I add more meatballs to it. Yeah. Now I have another batch and I'm just going to put them right on. Ready to go. Okay, just getting started on the very last batch because the second batch is in the oven now. Once you get going, it's quite easy to keep going, and that's why I like to make more than one batch. Because once you have that momentum, it's like, yeah, I got this. And then you start to memorize the recipe, and it's so easy. If there's leftover onion, grated onion, you can use it in a lot of things to make pasta sauce, meatloaf. What else? There's probably quite a few other things that I can't think of right now, but or you could try freezing it. So, with summer on my mind, I'm just thinking these meatballs are great to have on hand in the summer in the freezer. You just come in from outside or at the park or the library or wherever you want to go in the summer, pool. And you just pull out some frozen meatballs and you can easily heat them up in the microwave and they'll be ready for you in less than 2 minutes. And you just serve them with some vegetables, hummus, chip salsa, some fruit. The ideas are endless, really. You just need to take a little time once a month and make a couple batches, freeze them. The link to the full recipe is down below. It's on my blog. I really think you're gonna like it, whether or not you need to eat gluten-free and dairy-free. I would eat these, even if we didn't have the restrictions on our diet. I would totally eat these. They taste just like meatballs to me. They don't taste different. I don't know exactly why most recipes use breadcrumbs and Parmesan cheese. Well, I mean, I understand about the breadcrumbs because it helps the meatballs stay together. But my meatballs are staying together perfectly. I don't know if it's because of just the oats or if it's the oats and egg. It's probably the oats and egg. You could even get the whole family involved in this kind of project, and it would go by so fast. Besides, what kid doesn't like touching ooey gooey stuff? This is like science experiment level of this sticky icky meat. Of course, don't want to call it gross or anything like that, because it's not. But I think kids could be very helpful with this. Even if they just want to add the ingredients to the bowl, and then you mix it up and you form the meatballs, still a little bit of help. Especially if you have a child who doesn't like meatballs or doesn't like meat. At least have them watch you make these, and then they might be more interested in eating them. So while we're making convenience foods at home, foods that you could easily buy at the store in the freezer section, you can totally buy meatballs. They're there. They're even a pretty good price. I would say they might even be cheaper than making them yourself. But there's a trade-off there. I believe that, well, first of all, if you are needing a gluten-free or dairy-free recipe, you're not going to find that at the grocery store very easily or very cheaply. But you can make it at home, you can control the ingredients, and you can decide what goes in. And even if you don't need gluten-free and dairy-free and you can eat that stuff, the ingredients in meatballs in general at the grocery store are questionable. There's a lot of ingredients, and they don't all jive with a healthy eating lifestyle, the kind that at least that I'm looking for. I would much rather make my own, just so that I know what's in them. I get to decide what kind of meat I buy. I get to decide what oats are in there, what spices, ultimately I get to decide what they taste like. And you don't get that when you buy meatballs at the grocery store. It's just something to think about if you haven't thought about that before. Because making meatballs is time consuming. It's probably, for these 3 batches, it's going to take me more than an hour, possibly an hour and a half. And then, I mean, I could just run to the store, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back, go to the store for 5 minutes, grab a bag, so what, 35 minutes? Of course I'm going to buy other things while I'm there, I'm not just going to buy meatballs. So yeah, there is a trade-off to making convenience foods at home. 3 batches of meatballs are ready to go. It's a lot. It's heavy. I'm gonna go ahead and try one. I'm looking for a small one because I know there was a small one. This one. That is yummy. Very good. Really good. Last thing I have to do is put them away. Mostly in the freezer. I already labeled these ones. Meatballs. I'm just gonna start putting them in. Still got a good amount that I'm going to keep in the fridge. These meatballs are completely frozen now. I wanted to show you just how easy it is to take a few out of the bag once they're frozen and reheat them. I'm going to start by showing you how to reheat them in a little saucepan. I'll just put... Okay, I'm just throwing 8 of them in there. And then I have some broth. And I'm going to put just a bit, not to cover or anything, just to make sure they don't burn while they're on the burner, on the stove. And then I will go over to my stove and reheat them. And let them cook till they're nice and warm. I'll just turn these guys over. If it starts boiling too much, you can always turn it down. Just keep an eye on them because you don't want them, you don't want the liquid to run out and then the meatballs to get dry. I'm just gonna have to test one, see if it's heated through, and if it's not, just let them keep cooking away. It's hard to cut, so I think the inside is still frozen. Yep, inside is still quite cold, so I'll just put it back. And now I'm just checking the meatballs again to see if they have warmed through. And I take one out, cut it in half, and it is in fact warmed all the way through. The other way you can reheat them is on a plate in the microwave. I'll do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them on here as well. Okay, and we are going to use the broth again, just to moisten so that they don't dry out in the microwave. They're still cold. Just gonna adjust them a little bit. They feel a lot warmer to the touch, but I think I'm gonna put them in for another 20 seconds after I flip them out. Okay, they look like they're done. Some of them feel just a little bit cold. They're mostly hot though on the outside. Now we'll have to test one on the inside. Yep, it's nice in the middle, warmed up. As you can see, it's pretty easy to warm them up, but if you want to warm them up like in a soup or in a sauce, make sure you take the frozen meatballs and put them in at least 15 minutes before the soup or the sauce is done, just to make sure that the insides of the meatballs get all the way warmed up. Sincerely hope you enjoyed cooking with me today, and hopefully you got a batch or two of the meatballs in your freezer. I'd love for you to leave a comment below if you enjoyed the format of this video, or just if you want to let me know what you want me to make in the future, other foods that you want me to batch cook or make so that you can make them along with me. I'm really excited to help you fill your freezer with nourishing real food. Take care.